Rastafari. I'm Bernard Shaw. People know me as Imani, and presently manager of Shaw Lifesaver, which is a herbal entity, a herbal business that deals with herbal seasonings, spices, teas, and the like. Presently, I used to be manager at one time of Lowe's Agro Products, which was maybe the first herbal tea processing company in Dominica in the late 1980s up to the early 2000s. And he was manager of that institution. And previously working the land as a Rastaman, because you know that was the tradition we had in that time. We wanted to establish a livity of the land, living on the land, working on the land, producing, you know. So that is really where I'm coming from, and in my background in herbs have been really fascinating, really, to say the least, because I remember way back when in TFM where we established the Rastafari cooperative community. That time it was a land given to us by the then Prime Minister Patrick John, of blessed memory. And we worked that land and introduced myself to the production of herbs, fascinated by it. I remember growing some peppermint on a bed, and after uprooting the bed and digging up the bed again, thinking that the peppermint was over, as I dug up the bed, peppermint flew up again. I say, wow, that's great. So yes, it has been interesting, and because Dominica and Rastafari personally have that kind of background in herbs, the herbal tradition, which we wanted to revive that culture, because we think it's a culture that had been almost want to go down. You know, we knew the elders of past times were highly involved in herbal medicines and the like, and the herbal plants, and they would in their time use it faithfully and genuinely and successfully. You know, they use the herb successfully, and that tradition have been with us for long, for time immemorial. As we know, we are given the plants of the field for our use, the herbs for our use. So, as Rastafari and dealing with natural and nature, we decided, we got to revive the tradition of herbal medicines and herbal beverages, herbal drinks, and establish it as part of our life. The Soul Lifesaver, which is the entity that I manage at this point in time, producing herbal seasonings and teas, which is what we started with in 2005. So we have been on for the past 17 years, and making a good little headway, but just need to formalize and to bring everything to the point where we can say yes, we have reached that stage. We have reached that stage now. Let us move on. So we have been in the production of herbal seasonings, and I can off my bat mention some of the things that we do in packaging. We package different seasonings: black pepper, white pepper, whole cloves, clove powder, cinnamon powder, nutmeg powder, turmeric powder, which is becoming so famous now, ginger powder. We have the seasoning pepper powder, which people just enjoy because people only know seasoning pepper fresh, but when you can get the powder, people enjoy it. As far as the US, people have been enjoying it. And we all have the spices, I see. And the crucial thing about that, we also do things in bottles. We have in bottles, we have in packets. So in the bottles, we also have different others like the granulated garlic and onion and things. But we importantly have what I'm pointing at, showing now, which is the calabash seasoning. When Soul Lifesaver started, that was the intention to use our local seasonings and blend it to give us something nice. Because what happens is that we only use some of these seasonings at the Creole times, independence times, So people now start to think of what they call the godite, the tidite, and the bay leaf, and different other seasonings that people don't use generally. That people more use celery, parsley, thyme, and these things. So we intend to incorporate these seasonings into something beneficial and something healthy. Because again, when we look at the seasonings that are on shelves, we have to lament because some of them are very dangerous to the health, to our health. So like we say, we have the calabash seasoning. The calabash really even denote, signifying food, because we think of the calabash which we usually use for food preparation and for serving food. So we call it the calabash, and like I said, it is of celery, chives, tidite, white mint, which we call lamad blanc, cloves, and one of the basil species. We also have one like this which is called the kota, because we think of the what the old people used to have on their back called kota, to carry their food. And this one is with pimento, seasoning pepper, basil, turmeric, parsley, thyme, bay leaf, and godite. So we do those things, and we now incorporating the herbal teas. Because like I said, as manager of Blows Agro Products doing herbal teas, but we used to do it in tea bags. It was the first time people could drink peppermint in tea bag, and basilic and ginger, and people, it was really enjoyable to the people. People really enjoyed it. People loved it, the product. And I can say all our people overseas as well, because Dominicans overseas always be telling our people to send them up. So we're now incorporating the herbal teas because we have the land and we're doing a little planting. And we have the peppermint, we have the basilic, we have the simequotra, these and the spearmint. Now I say the basilic, and I want to say the basilic because people, and that has been there since in the late 1990s. All of a sudden, Dominicans are told that basilic makes you forget. All of a sudden, Dominicans have been drinking basilic from time they know themselves. Ask any Dominican of past time, which teas Dominicans know is basilic and simequotra. All of a sudden, basilic now makes you forget. And from time that propaganda came out, the weakness of our people just succumbed to it to a level where some people will now becoming cautious about using basilic all of a sudden. And that is what we find that has been so crucial with that culture. It's a culture that we have had from ourselves from time immemorial. We have seen attempts at different times in the history to denigrate herbs to the level of being almost nothing. We have seen that attempt to raise all kind of propaganda against herbs and against natural things, all in the effort, not because it is not good, but in the effort of bringing that propaganda to halt its progress and to stop people using it and not making economic value, not getting economic value out of it. And we want to tell our people that we have to be careful with these things because we know what we know. It was done with coconut oil. They raised propaganda against coconut oil, stopped our coconut oil industry only for their own industries to progress. So this is the kind of unethical thing that happens in the world, and because people don't care about people. So that thing came up with basilic, and Dominicans started being cautious. I want to tell Dominicans that we know what we know already, and we must stop making people fool us. Stop being taken for a ride with what we know. So now we're coming up with the basilic again, and people have been purchasing it, yes. People have been purchasing it. So we want that stigma of the basilic to be erased, because basilic is a thing that is used the world wide over. There are many species of the basilic tree, the basilic plant. Europe used the basil, they call it basil. B-A-S-I-L is basil, we call it basilic, is a Creole kind of thing. So Europe used basil, in their food preparations. If you look at any Italian seasoning, you see basil and many other seasonings. So you cannot raise that propaganda for us to stop drinking basil tea. And all the species of the basil that we have, many different species, and all of them are of high value. So I want Dominicans to come to understand that this is our culture and it must be taken away from us. The hurtful thing about it as well is when we look deep within and we check in that our elders of past times knew the use of these herbs, the use of herbs. They did not know the scientific method that we talk about today. They did not know, well, the herb has this constituent in this chemical constituent in it, so it will give that result. They didn't know these things, but they knew the herb was good for this and for that, and they used it successfully. So I'm saying that we as a people, because we come out from that slavery legacy, and that legacy of slavery is still within us, and we can't push forward and hold ourselves strong and push forward. We have not, and I come in on our intellectual class or university people, we have not taken what the elders knew and elevated. Since we know now that people looking for, we want to know what causes peppermint to have value. What is in peppermint? No, in this time now we study these things. There is modern levels now. But we as a people never stop to take that tradition of our own ancient elder people, our ancestors, and elevate it and study it. Because all we are given now is the modern medicine. So because we're given modern medicine, people put the herbs at the back. Until, as has happened in many cases that I know of, people have gotten no real benefit from the modern medicine, and then they come and ask for herbs as a last resort. But then why didn't we take it and elevate it and study it and bring it to the level that we can now produce it ourselves, package it ourselves, and be able to command respect for it? So that is what we want to tell people this day, that the traditional herbs is vital to us now. I mean, we had COVID in the past couple of years, and so much talk again about herbs, and I know a lot of Dominicans use herbs, during those times there, So we see again, the value of the herbs, and so we trying to establish it. And that really is our aim, our vision, establish that herbal tradition, and make it something unique for Dominica. And we're just passionate about it, and it's part of our life. And nothing can separate us from it, because we're going to be there all the time using it and espousing the value of it. There are certain herbs that, even the Seasonings that all Dominicans raise up with. You read books and you tell you Seasonings are poisonous. All of a sudden, you hear those things about herbs, but you see what has been, again, we don't have the facilities, laboratory facilities and the like, and all these kind of levels, to really make these things be of no effect. But it has always been so. There's a herb called sumarba, which is a wood of a tree, a white wood, and maybe some people know it is a white wood used as cooling. Bitter, but it is looked as one of the most effective medicinal therapeutical herbs in the herbal kingdom. It is called quassia as well. They say in the older times our people used to make cups of it and just pour the water and get bitter and drink it. But it is used as a cooling. It's a very famous fever remedy. What made it so famous, and why I say people always, that is what always, the fight against herbs is always real and always there. There was in the time of the slavery times, there were these high fever epidemics, malaria and this and that. And there's a slave called Kwasi who was using this herb, and everybody was benefiting, slave master as well as slave, being cured from the high fever remedy, high fever. They actually forced him, eventually, that is the slave master, forced him to tell them the secret of what he was using. When he told them that, they paid him off in a little gold, but then what happened? Guess what happened? You never hear about Sumarba again. You never hear about it. If you ask anybody now, Sumarba is like Greek talking. if you look in like, books like the back to it, you'll see it under the name quassia. Quassia from the slave quassi. They call it quassia. You know? And it was just shut down, it was just kept, down. And it is so effective, especially for all these, what they call the MCDs and these degenerative diseases that our old people suffer from. So people I know use that for pressure, for diabetes, for cancer, for rheumatism, all kind of things. Because it has a lot of chemical elements within that plant that can destroy a lot of toxins.